Extracting Results, Consultation versus Consul'telling. A paper by Amber Armstrong for Royal Roads University, MA in Professional Communications. The overarching research question that the current study examines is, how can communication improve resource development consultations between Indigenous peoples and proponents in Alberta? Methodologically, this interpretivist study takes the form of an integrative literature review of the existing materials in the literature about the research topic. Proponents and Indigenous communities often have disparate worldviews. Therefore, the thematic analysis of the selected materials was based upon the ethical space of engagement conceptual framework promoted by Ermine as offering a way to create respectful nation-to-nation relationships between the Indigenous communities, the Crown, and with resource developers in Alberta. To provide a framework from which the literature review is based, I used the 3 characteristics of the ethical space of engagement as a guide. The sample was thematically analyzed and interpreted, and lastly, critical analysis and synthesis were made to complete the review. The themes derived from the sources were examined as a whole in order to understand the scope and limitations of existing literature, thus conducting a critical analysis of the sample. The foremost areas of consultation that are examined include the areas of conflicts between Indigenous communities and resource developers in Alberta, the concerns and interests of various stakeholders that require significant attention during consultations, the significance of involvement of the Crown in the negotiations, and the framework of consultation. The 4 themes resulted from critical analysis and synthesis of knowledge. The goal of this paper was to examine the most suitable approach of consultations to be implemented in consultations between proponents and Indigenous peoples in Alberta. The integrative literature review found that the current state of consultation is not sufficient because the interests of the proponents have been upheld in preference to those of the Indigenous peoples. The major cause of misunderstandings and conflicts between the Indigenous peoples and the proponents have largely been due to ineffective communication practices that fail to identify the differences in cultural perceptions and ways of life.